Welcome to a football show Tuesday edition here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. That is Paul Kaharski, paulkaharski.com. And I am Braden Gall. Good to see you, PK, again today. How are you?
Good to be seen. I'm well, thanks.
A little bit later on, we'll have about a 3-minute tour of the new Nissan Stadium. It will do all the work that you need. It'll show you all the different areas. You'll hear from Burke Nihill, some of the updates on what are the next steps in the stadium, where they're at now, and some of the things that they're excited about. You'll see all of that later near the end of the show. But I know, Paul, you can always check out PK on the Paul Kaharski podcast. I know you guys did plenty of coverage from the stadium and after the game. I have not yet had a chance to talk about this. We do apologize about our timing on this because of some availability on Monday. We are still working through what the schedule is going to look like each and every week. We will settle on that at some point. We will settle on that. I have like a charity golf thing coming up later, so the Thursday show is going to be on Friday. So this whole week is still a total mess. So we do appreciate you guys kind of bearing with us here. If you want to go ahead and share the product right now, you want to go ahead and share the YouTube link, share the Twitter feed, the Facebook feed, etc., whatever. We'll get some folks involved here in the show today. You guys can ask some questions, and we'll see where you guys want to go. Denard Wilson, of course, spoke today about L'Jarius Sneed's pitch count. We'll talk about that. We'll play that video for you. And Brian Callahan talking about Cam Ward. Basically, a chance to win a game they had no real business winning, and a bunch of mistakes, self-inflicted wounds, decisions, and inexperience cost this team an opportunity. That's the gist of it, and we'll get into all the different parts of that throughout the course of the show. Sinkers Beverages, if watching the Tennessee Titans offense drives you to drink, Sinkers Beverages. Lots of really good stuff on the floor. They got some brand new bourbons that are available, some store picks from Four Roses that I went and checked out. Fantastic stuff. I know you're going to need some of that in your life as well. If you have any events coming up this weekend or any events in your life, make sure you check out, talk to the wine experts and the champagne experts, the cocktail experts. They're great at putting on a great party. So make sure you check out Sinkers Beverages expertise. They will take care of you. And if you're drinking this weekend, please do not drive. Goes without saying. Do not drive, but make sure you go search Uber Eats, Sinkers Beverages, and have that booze delivered directly to your house. All right, PK. We've got a lot of good stuff going. We already have people in the comments here. I want to start with you want to play Callahan talking about Cam Ward first, and we'll just start with the quarterback, and then we'll work our way into all the things that went wrong around the quarterback. So we'll start there. Here was Brian Callahan yesterday talking about some of the things that he thought his quarterback did well and some of the things he needs to correct.
I was really pleased with a lot of things that Cam did in the game, which is really important. He operated well. He managed the game. There's definitely some things he's going to learn from that I think are going to be really critical for his jump from week 1 to week 2. But the operation and handling the environment and his poise was really impressive. So that part was encouraging. I'm excited about that. Had a couple of offensive miscues that I think could have resulted in some potential big plays for us that we didn't connect on. We got to clean those things up. I think we had some opportunities to be smarter with the ball when it came to the sacks and things of that nature in the fringe areas. I got to do a better job there. We'll get that fixed. I had 4 takeaways on defense, or 3 on defense and 1 on special teams, which led the NFL this week. So that emphasis was good to see. To come out of that with some production on the ball, which was great. Got to do a better job complementing those things offensively and finding ways to get 7 points out of those instead of 3. And then one of them we didn't get any out of. So we got to find a better rhythm offensively to complement those particular ones. Situationally, we have to be better. I have to be better. There was definitely things that we got to improve on there. Some of the third downs we spent most of the day in 3rd and 7+, 3rd and 10+. Against that defense, and that was one of the key parts to our ability to win was to stay on track in those moments, and we didn't do a good enough job of that offensively overall.
Didn't do a good enough job of staying on track offensively, 3rd and 7+, blah, blah, blah. How many times have we heard that before? It's the same exact thing as last season. Yeah, it's against a good defense. Cam Ward was really pretty good, very sharp, drops. Penalties put him in a situation where you made a good debut by a rookie quarterback not matter.
I have a hard time not trying to do with Cam in particular. I go all right, the reasons they lost the game. I think Cam Ward could have done some things better. I think he held onto the ball too long. 6 sacks weren't all on the offensive line, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're making a list of things that cost the Titans a chance to win the game, I think you go down the list a good ways before you get to Cam Ward, right? Like you're down the list. I don't know what number is. I don't know what the penalties and offensive line and play calling decisions and all the other things. I don't know when you get to Cam Ward. I don't think he did a lot to help win the game, but I think he gave his team opportunities. And so I think he'd be way, way, way down the list. So we'll get to the drops by the receivers, which is also a big problem in this particular offense. I guess we need to start with Callahan. And I don't think any of the individual things that are on Callahan, because there are numerous, are reasons they lost the game. But taken in totality, and we'll get to that, taken in totality and based on the context of the summer, where all of the self-inflicted mistakes were supposedly the things they were trying to remove from the team and the organization, with all of the focus and all of the language and all of the messaging outwardly, it is a huge problem that leaving the first game, it feels like the coaching staff, at least on offense, and the head coach was a net negative on the game. I don't know if they were. We're going to go through each one of these decisions, and there were bad ones, there were egregious ones, there were less bad ones, but I don't think the team had a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. And first of all, that's a nice thing that we have to acknowledge against a better team and a great defense on the road with a bunch of rookies starting. But the coach cannot be a sort of like a net, like again, if they had a 82% chance to win the game without Brian Callahan and an 81% chance to win the game with Brian Callahan, that's a problem.
Oh, I mean, the percentage shift was much more significant than that. Just alone off of the end of the first half, where pinned deep in their own end, 7-yard line with 49 seconds left. He chose the play sequence that he did. The execution wasn't good. I don't recall exactly what happened on the one screen pass. On the other screen pass, we were looking at it here in the Titans press room, where they had 3 guys out wide: Lockett, Okonkwo, and Ridley. We've collectively concluded that Ridley would have been the target there. It's a play that they did a ton during training camp and at practice, where the quarterback just whips it out there really quick to one of that trio with the other 2 leading him. We don't know what kind of yardage they would have gotten out of that, but it looks like it would have been something. It wasn't going to get blown up. So it was poorly executed by Ridley for sure. And Ridley had a really poor game. But still, it goes against kind of the conservative nature of the whole thing, where you have a 6-3 lead and you're at risk, if things go wrong down there, as they did, of giving Denver the ball back in pretty good field position and allowing them a chance at a touchdown, which is exactly the negative scenario that panned out, and they get a touchdown out of it and you lose by 8. So I think it was really bad coaching malpractice to try to get something out of it there, thinking that they could get in range for Sly.
Well, what'd you make of the explanation, though? Because his explanation on Monday was largely like, hey, we knew we were going to get a certain look. We got the man-to-man coverage look. We had the right play called for that look. It didn't work. Then the next play, because they didn't have the protection on the right side of the line correct on that first snap, I don't believe. Then the next play is the one you're talking about, where a player screwed up, not the coach. And then on the third one, it's, again, maybe that's the one you should be handing the ball off. But again, the sack, while terrible, kept the clock running. And then the defense didn't make a stop either. So I'm not defending the decision here. I just want to go through the conversation of, it's not like, of course, in hindsight, you don't do that. But what do you make of his explanation in saying, hey, we knew we were going to get a look. We wanted to attack. We thought we could take them by surprise, and we had the play called to attack this look. It didn't work out.
He also said, we had some momentum and we wanted to carry over the momentum. Their momentum was an 8-play, 23-yard field goal drive that they wanted to carry over. So, I mean,
in that game, that was momentum.
Straws, a 23-yard drive was some kind of momentum that you thought you could build off of.
Yeah, I'm with you. My point is,
I think it's going against convention, and I don't know that he is. I don't know that going against convention serves him well in a position where you're backed up. Go against convention somewhere else. It didn't.
That's fair.
Everybody was saying it in the moment. Nobody was saying it only after the fact.
That in the press box, you're saying folks were like, "What is he doing here?"
Yeah, everybody was. And then again, like,
I agree. I was at home doing that.
And I also complained about going horizontally there. Like if you feel like you're really doing something, I mean, the one play could have turned into something, but I felt like, they never went downfield. So if you're going to be not conservative, let's see your downfield play maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it felt like things came off the rails there.
So again, let's go. And by the way, do you have any answer to this? Valentino says, did they give any explanation for not line streaming the pressers today? Normally they don't do that. I do not
give a shit about streaming pressers. I'm absolutely the wrong guy.
Fans
I would go through the room and unplug every cord if I could. Every cord. I don't want any pressers streamed ever.
It's because of personal value to you.
Give a shit that they didn't stream them today. You got no consciousness of who you're talking.
Well, the fans care, but yes, I agree with you. I don't care what happens this week, but if we lose back,
read what we write off the pressers where we're asking the questions. That's how you should use the presser. The two guys in here applauding me, who are working tirelessly to provide you stuff off of the questions they asked.
Who's applauding? Is that TD?
Poor bastards are stuck in here. They said they were going to be gone. Easton and TD.
Easton and TD are.
Why didn't they? Hold on. Let me leave the screen. I'm going to go ask why they didn't broadcast the pressers. That's the news.
It's not me. Today. I'm not asking. I'm asking. Huh? I was just going to tell them.
No, they're wondering why the pressers weren't.
Not me. Like not me.
No, somebody asked.
I am trying. All I was going to try to do was answer his question before you jumped in. Which is
I don't know, and if I knew, I probably wouldn't share. Like
fair.
The odds that I would know. The odds that I would know or care to know. I don't mean to insult.
Fireside chats
just
are
the
not.
Idea that I.
Fireside chats are not streamed, and generally the coordinators I don't think have been streamed either. Some of the availability on players yesterday were not streamed. I don't know if that's.
God, they didn't stream Lloyd Cushenberry talking on the patio yesterday.
Are you done? Are you done? The question is, I think the fans' question is whether or not that is tied to how they played or something like that. That's all that is. So just chill out, man. Take a deep breath. This is a question we'll get to, which is I don't care what happens this week, but if we lose back-to-back to the Colts and Texans, do we boot Brian Callahan? I think it's a little too soon for that conversation.
Them broadcasting a press conference benefits me. It does not benefit me. That's absolutely.
It does not. It does not. I think ultimately what's most frustrating is from Josh. What's most frustrating is that it's more of the same. You'd expect to see some progression in the weakest areas from last year.
It was a disaster. It was the lowest. It was the lowest yards per play. It was lower than anything they did last year. In a year, in an offseason where all they talked about were these self-inflicted negatives, they committed as many penalties as they committed in any game last year, 13. More penalty yards than they had in any game last year, 131. I mean, it's an ultimate disaster if you're looking at it in terms of everything they talked about offseason and how they came back.
Yes.
And this guy keeps saying the O-line is the main reason they lost. I don't know how he can tab it as the main reason that they lost. I mean,
well, and this is my issue. This is the issue for all people involved in this. I don't think it was one thing. I like, if you want to say that the O-line was the main problem, fine, go for it. If you want to say it was Calvin Ridley and some of the receivers not making plays, not getting open, dropping passes, fine. If you want to say Cam Ward could have done a little bit better, sure. Not the main reason, but sure. Callahan made some mistakes. Again, the Alec Iomanner thing, his explanation was worse than the call. Like the call itself, if you don't challenge it and you don't challenge it, like that's not the reason they lost the game, guys. They didn't lose the game.
23 yards.
They didn't lose the game because he didn't complete that pass. There's 65 other plays in the game. There's a number of other times the offense could have made any play in positive territory to get themselves not in 3rd and 11 and out of field goal range. And so I'm not saying it was good, it was bad. But taken in totality, the whole entire picture, an offensive line that didn't seem to make a lot of progress, or you got the right tackle getting hurt and Latham, and you got the left tackle having problems.
Dan Moore was bad.
Now Broncos, again, one of the best pass rushes. Fine, not a good look. Calvin Ridley, I thought, was poised to have a pretty good year. He still could. This is just 1 week, but it is the total picture. It's the penalties. It's Jarvis Brownlee not taking a step forward and learning from the mistakes. I don't really have the Jeffery Simmons penalty is another perfect example. That's kind of a weak call in my opinion. But does Jeffery Simmons need to know better about that? Is that the penalty that cost him the game? Of course it's not. That's ridiculous. But again, you cannot take the entire picture and feel confident about all the leadership on the field and off the field doing all the things that they said they were doing all summer. Now, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. There are 16 more games, and there will be progress. And in fact, if you want to talk about the thing that was significantly better on Sunday than last year, was special teams. Special teams was significantly better, by far the best part of the team, and they hired the coach to go do that. So I don't know if that makes sense. Like I think there was too much in the immediate aftermath blaming one person or one thing, and when I think you could go down the explanations are almost as bad, and we can get into this. Like the explanation around the call to Alec Iomanner's completion is sort of the problem, because he says one thing after the game, then he says another thing at the press conference, Brian Callahan, and then he kind of goes back and says a different thing after that. Like, I believe that Brian Callahan knows that an elbow is worth 2 feet. I believe that he does. I don't think Brian,
I don't know if he knew it on Sunday.
I
don't
mean,
know if he knew it on Sunday. And if he knew it on Sunday, then he let somebody talk him out of it in his headset. So his conviction wasn't very strong. So that's poor. I think all these things you're talking about obviously were a factor. Here's the biggest thing. We said this whole season is about Cam Ward's progress. Well, if you do all of this other stuff that makes Cam Ward's progress a tertiary story, you bury yourself. Brian Callahan's going to bury himself. And if he's doing stuff like if he and his team are doing stuff like they did on Sunday in Denver, he's not going to survive. And if he doesn't survive, it hurts Cam Ward in the long term. But if we have stories like this beyond Sunday, in terms, and we're not going to, I can't imagine we're going to have the rules kind of thing. But if he's doing stuff like he did backed up there with the play calling and it doesn't work out and all of that, and we have these stories that are the lead topics of conversation on Monday and Tuesday, and we don't get to Cam Ward having a solid day and having these moments that looked good, maybe, the whole thing's going to come crashing down around him. Cam Ward's going to be left standing. It's going to be another coach. He's coming in and bringing his own players. That's all going to set everything back. And it's going to be really disappointing.
So I want to get to Snead, and I want to get to Simmons, and I want to get to the defense, and I want to get to the penalties, but there are other elements. We talked about Dan Moore struggling. And all of the good of the fourth quarter, the good of Cam Ward, I would suggest, is it seems like they had schemed open, especially early with Gunnar Helm on those sort of those outbreakers, and then those seam routes down the middle. Like, again, Brian Callahan's system, and Nick Holes and Bo Hutt agree, that seems like the system has always been pretty good at getting people open last year and this year, and there's been just a failure to execute O-line, quarterback, receiver, which is all the parts. And it didn't seem like any of them ever worked together all at once. So if the offensive line did give him time to throw, he didn't throw it. When the offensive line didn't give him time, the receivers weren't getting open quick enough. And when all of it did work and Cam Ward had opportunities to hit the receivers, Calvin Ridley dropped multiple passes. I'm not saying they weren't tough catches, but he's paid $90 million to make tough catches. And so it's that it never worked together was the problem. And could you say on the road against an elite defense week one? That's fine. I'm okay with that if you want to say that. I think if it continues, to your point, on offense, if it's disconnected all of the way, I think that's the problem. So I don't think we need to go crazy after one game, but it is concerning, and it's worth. Does that make sense? Like I'm not ready to make any sweeping judgments after one game.
No, but it was an ominous start, and among the people that really need to help themselves, Brian Callahan's high on the list. And that was probably Brian Callahan's worst game as Titans coach. Whether that's deserved or not, he needs to handle all of that in a way that he needs confidence from the fan base, from his bosses. And I don't know that he did anything to buy himself any more of that or to stay where he was. He dented himself with that game, I think.
I don't disagree with you, but let me go with me on this sort of like feeling of this real fast, which is when I look at officials, a lot of times the way, and we know that the NFL has grades on officials, right? We know that they, a 92% or a 97%. We don't get that information, but we know that they have it. Officials, because it's such a thankless job, generally speaking, like 96 is bad, right? Like 94 is bad. We saw in college football, the Big 12 officiating crew got suspended because they allowed a free kick to be a punt, not a kickoff. Had no impact on the outcome of the game. But it was a mistake, and they got suspended, meaning the smallest, tiniest little error cost them a chance to do their job again the next week. And the reason I'm saying all this is because you're like, this is Brian Callahan's worst game. And I think it is incredibly difficult to pinpoint the totality of a game on a coach or a staff, because the only things that we can truly analyze, sort of like pass fail, are these like individualized decisions inside of a 120 play event. And we don't know, like, did Brian Callahan do a brilliant job scheming up the defense with Denard Wilson to strategize against Bo Nix and Sean Payton? Maybe he did, and that was a brilliant game plan. Like, you see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that it's true. I'm just saying you miss a challenge, you have a questionable go for it kind of risky play. I'm going to get to the Snead thing in a second, because that one's weird to me.
That's a factor in there too, though.
No question. My point is, it's like it's easy for us to say it's the worst game he's ever coached, because the 2 to 4 things that a coach does that get all the attention in a game went the wrong way and were wrong, and that's bad. but Cam Ward being ready to play and looking like he's poised enough, that's mostly with Cam. He gets most of the credit for that, but so does the coaching staff for having their rookie quarterback ready to handle all of that. So do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not making excuses here. I'm just saying that there's an element of we don't know what was implemented in the game plan by Callahan versus Holes versus Hardegree versus versus Bill Callahan, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I will say my broad sense of Denver's offense was that Denver's offense played poorly. And I don't know that the Titans did a ton to induce that. I talked to some Denver reporters. They felt like Nix was off. They felt like Nix was forcing himself to run because he throws better when he runs. He made a bad throw on the one pick. And I was not impressed with Denver's offense. I did not think that the Titans, I didn't come away thinking, whoa, the Titans defense really did a good job. And look, they get the credit. I mean, they turned the ball over 3 times. That's excellent performance, much better than I expected. But I don't think that Denver's offense started the season very well. I don't think much of it overall, but I tend to be alone on that. I thought that Simmons played very well.
He was very good.
Most of the game. Two penalties were hurtful, but he was accountable in a way he's not typically accountable after the game, and I was impressed with that. I thought the 3 safety look worked relatively well.
Yep.
As a wrinkle and as a nuance, and but you handed away 6 first downs with penalties. That is a big issue.
So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was, Bo Nix is like 38 passes for like 180 yards. I mean, we're talking like 5 yards an attempt, which is a very good defense. But to my point about you don't always know exactly what a coach's influence is on a game, that it was clear that they were going to run a bunch of curls against the zone coverage against the Titans defense from the beginning. They were running.
He did average exactly 5 yards. They were.
I mean, the first series, it was 5-yard curl, 7-yard turnaround, 6-yard stop. It was this team cannot cover it in zone at linebacker, and it's going to be a problem. Whether it's Barton or Gray or anybody else, like it is going to be, this team does not cover in zone very well, in particular in the middle of the field. And it was very clear that Sean Payton and the Broncos wanted to attack that from the word go. which then you need to settle for shorter passing attempts and less statistical production. So I'm not saying they were great or the Titans were bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that is a thing that a coach decides on like Tuesday. And as they're seeing your film, they start to put that in place. It's hard to know if that plan was the problem with Callahan. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I thought some of the plan was pretty solid from like for Cam Ward, and like there was a lot of executional problems on the players as well. Is I guess what I'm getting to. Fair. Which is not good either. It's bad news for everybody. It's bad. All right. So you guys have had a lot of comments, so I apologize if we missed some of you guys. I do think special teams is something to be excited about. The defense I thought was pretty good on the road for sure. So let's play Denard Wilson here, and we'll dive off into the defense here with the Snead conversation. This was Denard Wilson today on Tuesday, talking about the pitch count with L'Jarius Snead.
That was obviously an organizational decision. Sometimes, as players, you got to protect them first. But he went out there. He had a certain amount of plays from an organization. We said that was how much he was going to play, and he came out. It'll change week to week. Okay, but how soft tissue injuries happen. Not having a lot of time on task and callousing your body to be out there to play those extensive plays. And as an organization, if he goes out there and get hurt, you don't want that to happen either from a soft tissue standpoint. So we were all in on it, and we'll move forward from it.
All right. So let me lay this out. My first thought on this was, because Snead said it after the game. Hey, that was an organizational decision in the locker room. He says, hey, I'm on. You have to talk to them about it. Callahan, same thing. Denard Wilson, same thing. If in fact it is an organizational decision, I have no problem with that. Seems totally like a normal strategy to have, your expensive asset protected as best you can, easing him back in with soft tissue problems. Are you telling me you didn't think about that as you got to like snap 14, 15, 16, and 17 in the first half? At any point, are you going, maybe we should save some of these reps for the second half? Or did they think the first half was that important to them? That is my issue with this, is how you deployed the snaps, not that there was a count.
Yeah. I'm going to be the you of last segment on this one. I think it's hard to save the snaps for later. You say, hey, you got 5 snaps left, and we're going to use them for the 5 biggest plays of the second half. A guy can't stay loose, I don't think, in a game fashion to pop off and go sprint for 5 plays over the course of a hour and a half in the second half. Hour and 15 minutes, whatever it is. I don't think that's kind of a natural way to put a guy on a pitch count. So, now maybe you could be creative and you could play him the second half and have him have a really good warm up at halftime, or something like that. But I think it'd be very hard to drip and drab a guy's 20 pitches as a secondary player over the course of a game.
I think you could alternate series, especially.
Well, that's what they were doing.
Yeah, like I think there's ways to stretch it out. Third down, like, hey, you're going to take an extra series off this time, but if we get into a 3rd and 8, we're going to bring you in, right? Like, and I have to go back and check every snap that he played, but like, I don't have a problem with the snap count itself. So, do you have a problem with what is the part of the Snead thing that you are bothered most by in all of this?
Well, I just wonder if they're not being a little bit over conservative. I've heard that he was great the last 2 weeks. And so if he was great the last 2 weeks, couldn't he have been great the last 3 weeks? Like, what was the delay at amping him up in the off season when he was saying at a football camp at the during the break that he felt as good as he'd felt and everything? There's been no clear explanation for why the timetable was so slow at the start of camp and all of that. That's where my issue lies.
They've been very slow and conservative with him from the beginning, even last year. There's no question about that. Let me ask you this, though. I didn't get the sense. I wasn't there, obviously. I didn't get the sense watching Snead after the game talk to you guys. I got the sense that he thought he could have played more. Now, is that
he definitely thought he could have played more. He
Okay.
definitely thought he could have played more. I mean, he said it's their decision. Everybody put it on their decision. And I felt like Denard's tone today was an organizational decision.
Who's there?
I think it's an upstairs decision.
Like
I think
Brinkler,
I was kind of
Borgonzi?
thinking of Aaron Boone today when I heard this. Aaron Boone is responsible for executing a lot of shit that doesn't come from Aaron Boone. It comes from Brian Cashman and Brian Cashman's minions, the GM who runs the analytics. This felt to me like a analytic, mathematical
Front office
math/medicine decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this ice hockey saying, back-breaking 15-yard penalty after the play is over on third down is excusable? No one ever said that, nor did I. I don't think it was a great call.
Simmons
I don't
played,
think it was a good call.
That's a Simmons question. I think Simmons played a good game and had
I agree.
2 dumb penalties, which he has too often. I do think for the first time in a long time, he didn't say, well, the ref really screwed me on that or something like that. He said, I did dumb shit that hurt the team.
And he could, and honestly, on that play, he could have said, like,
yes.
well, he wasn't down at all. He was still fighting for yards, and I just gave him a shove. Like, it wasn't like it was not a malicious hit. It was not a late hit. They could have kept the flag in the pocket there. I understand why they called it, and he's got to do a better job on that. I'm just saying it's more like it's one of those 50-50 kind of gray area calls, and he didn't even flinch after the game and saying, yeah, I did that. I hurt the team. I can't do that. And now the offside early in the game, that one happened, and I was like, oh, shit. But he played a great game. He played
very disruptive.
He played a great game. He was in the backfield the whole time, very productive along that line, and he got into Bo Nix's kitchen a couple times, lined up as an end, like we kind of talked about all summer. So I think the defense, the 3 safety look, I do think they're going to have trouble covering the middle of the field in zone. I think that's going to be a problem. So we'll have to see. Anything else on any of the rookies on defense stand out to any of the other players? I mean, DK had the great return. Io Manor, I thought, did fine. Anybody else that we're missing here in terms of pieces that I thought McCreary played a decent game. So I don't know what else you have to say about the defense. I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah, it was a nice job. With the Woods, we should give mention to, who had the other interception.
Oh yeah.
So good play out of the secondary overall. I mean, I think Darrell Baker's going to get targeted when he's in the game.
Yeah.
And Snead, I thought, played reasonably well for first time out.
Yeah.
And has potential to be electric again if they get him out there and it could stay healthy. So got to see the snaps go up and got to see him not have any setbacks.
I think we could talk Brownlee and Ridley. I think Brownlee and Ridley are kind of like inextricably linked because they just kind of work together all the time in camp and in practice. Both of them just made mental mistakes in the game that I think were a problem, and they need to be corrected. And Brownlee didn't necessarily have all the right things to say about it after the fact, right?
Very frustrating. I mean, look, one of the penalties was not a great call, the pass interference with Sutton. But the other 2 are legit, illegal contact and a face mask. And he just saying, like, I control what I control. Well, what you control is adjusting your game to be within what the ref says. And we talked to Denard Wilson just a couple hours ago, and he said, the penalties are unacceptable, and we've got to get that straight. And he's got to learn when to stop using his hands and be violent with your hands early and move your feet. But at a certain point, you've got to stop it. And that's going to be a point of emphasis with him this week. But again, this is another thing. Like, his whole offseason mission was, after 9 penalties last year, a lot of them untimely, was to, look, you could be a physical cornerback, but you've developed a reputation, at least for a while. You need to change your game. And he didn't change it. And then after the game, he said, I'm not going to change it, which it sounds like an idiot. Like, to say, they're not going to tell me when I can use my hand. Well, yes, they are.
Rapid Reaction says JB Jarvis Brownlee uses his hands too much. Ridley forgot how to use his.
Ridley was really
good
bad.
line.
And Ridley we have not heard from, and I expect Ridley will be very humble tomorrow and very down in terms of, trying to flush that game and talking about doing better. But I think I brought this up, Braden. I said Ridley, his chemistry with Ward is a big piece of things, but his mental stuff away from Ward, where he goes out of bounds 2 yards short on 3rd and 4 and says he felt the cornerback there, those are Ridley issues. And we have to see if the Ridley issues surface. And the Ridley issues surface in a big way on this opening day. I mean, that one play, TDE was over here with us around. I mean, he's batting the ball to the ground like he's playing volleyball, spiking it instead of catching it on a very well-designed play. I mean, TD was running us through, this guy's taken here by this guy's taken here, this guy's there. I mean, Ridley, if he caught that ball, had some room to run, that was going to be a really damaging play. I think it was a 3rd down, and they go from this play worked perfectly, and we got it to our best guy who can run, to we're walking to the sidelines, and Hecker's coming on. I mean,
in a game where you're going up against maybe the best cover corner on the planet, and you and weren't going to get him open very many chances. So when you did get him open, you needed to connect on him. And Ward did miss him on one. Like Ward missed him on the seam route where like it was a little overthrown.
Too hard.
It's a really tough catch, but like again, if you're going to be a great player, you got to make the hard plays. So.
Well, there were 3 balls that were in range. I count 2 of them as drop. One of them was too hot.
That's fair.
For him to catch. But I will say, Brian Callahan said, it's my. I wrote leading up to the game. We talked about it last week about I would try to stop Calvin Ridley at all costs and take my chances with everybody else. Well, they targeted Calvin Ridley 8 times. And he only had 4 catches. And these are the kind of numbers we were looking at early last season when it was a quarterback chemistry problem to a great degree. But 4 catches for 27 yards with a long of 13, you need more than that out of Calvin Ridley on opening day.
Dalton has an interesting comment here.
And Callahan did, in fact, find ways to get him the ball.
Yes. And I think this is interesting because there's 2 elements to play calling. Dalton says it's not all on Callahan, but Callahan, in my opinion, has no rhyme or reason to his calls at times, but he is a great schemer. And there are 2 elements to being a great play call. There's design and timing. You have to play calling to me is a feel thing. Like you can practice stuff, but it's about you just know when you need to execute that play because you know that you have an anticipation of playing chess with somebody. And when hey, the defense has been doing this, and this, they're going to break from that and go over here. You're anticipating that and already pre-planning for that. And so there's a timing element that I would be curious to maybe to dive into that a little bit more, which is sort of, and not on this show, but I mean throughout the course of the season, which is the scheme seems pretty sound. Like it's a pretty smart scheme, and you can only draw up so much new stuff on a football field. Like everybody's doing it, and so it's a lot about timing. And if that's the problem, that could be a different element to evaluating Brian Callahan. But I think by and large the scheme wasn't bad. I thought the scheme did a good job on Sunday against the Broncos. So here's the last thing I'll say, and we can kind of wrap this up. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you support our great local sponsors. Is there a way to, if you're Callahan, if you're the players, if you're a fan, you had drop passes by your star receiver. You had 6 sacks and an offensive line that didn't look like it solved too many problems. You had 13 penalties for 131 yards. Your star corner was on a pitch count and didn't play in the second half. Your coach made a couple of blunders in critical situations. A long list of things that kept you from winning the game, and yet you still had the lead in the second half on the road against a much better team than you and still covered the spread and had a chance to get back into the game like multiple times in the fourth quarter. Is there a way to take the whole thing and say, there's no way they're going to be that sloppy and mistake prone from here on out? If they just correct 20, 30, 40% of that, they're in situations where they have chances to win a lot of games. I don't mean a lot like
a couple of things that are weird there. Like you mentioned, covering the spread, as if that matters to anybody.
I just mean it's closer than, I just mean it's closer.
And can they correct 20, 30, 40%? I mean, correcting 40% is a ton for a young team that has so little experience and such a propensity for making mistakes. If they could correct 40% of what they did in that game, they'd be a good football team. They're not a good football team. Let's talk about this. part of the reason you're committing the penalties, we've talked about this before, part of the reason you're holding is because your ass is beat if you don't hold, because you're inferior, right?
Sure.
Part of the reason you're grabbing a guy's face mask when he's running away from you is because he's running away from you, and he's going to score a touchdown if you don't grab his face mask. So it does go back to the talent to a degree. Many of the in-play penalties, I think, result from I'm not as good as that guy, and I have to do something to equalize this situation. So,
but that's not on the coach then, you know?
No. Well,
No.
I mean, the coach has tried to train discipline and technique, and that you can equalize a mismatch by playing a technique that will hold up. And you hope that that is the case more often that your technique can keep you in the battle. But I do wonder, and this is something I should probably delve into in a story. The other thing that I have an issue with this team is Tony Pollard. They clearly can't ride Tony Pollard for an entire drive, even that they have to bring in Chestnut in a short yardage situation, who's not a solution. Tony Pollard's long run was 9. He averaged 3.3 on 18 carries. There's just not enough pop there. And I know he's going to face lesser defenses, but can Tony Pollard give you some pop? They need to be a run-based team. It's one game sample. Yeah. I know he did some good things last year. He was often their best player on offense. He's not trending up, though. He's not going to get better than the best we've seen of him. Are they going to get enough out of the run game?
What's interesting is there was one drive in the first half where between in the A and B gaps, there was a lot of space. And I was like, that's what it's supposed to look like with Zeitler, Skoronski, and Cushenberry, where they are. And then the Broncos made an adjustment to that. And so Rapid asked about altitude. I don't know. I think you ride Pollard. You don't take a timeout in that situation just to bring the running back in. You got to feel like Chestnut's good enough to pick up a couple of yards. Eventually, you're going to need to give running backs a blow. But I agree, he's not young, and he's been banged up, and he's not a huge guy. And so you're not going to be able to give him 300 touches. And so I think running back is a higher need on the team in the draft than people realize.
I agree.
I will be writing as much for paulkarski.com coming up this week, anticipating this commentary around Tony Pollard. There's some really good running backs, by the way, but all in the middle and late rounds. So I just think it's going back to my 20 or 30% increase. Like, I'm thinking 13 penalties. Instead of 13 penalties, it's 9. That might have been enough for them to be in a position to win the game, but 9 penalties still isn't great. So I'm not saying that they're going to be a good team if they're that much better. But if Callahan makes 3 mistakes, well, only 2 mistakes, is that enough to win a game? If Cam Ward is only sacked 3 times instead of 6 times, you know what I'm saying? It's more like that. It's if you just shave the mistakes down a little bit and you eliminate a few of them, would that have been enough to win this game, or is that enough to beat the Rams or beat the Colts or beat the Texans? I that's what I'm kind of getting at, is can they show the progress to learn from their mistakes and eliminate about 20 or 30% of those? And I think in that context, they had a chance to win the game. Even with all the mistakes, they had a chance to win the game, which I think there is a layer of positivity in there somewhere. So.
And I think spinning it forward, the Rams are an interesting team to look at, because I think the Rams are the kind of team that Brian Callahan was looking at when he talked about this whole self-inflicted negative concept, because the Rams don't do that stuff. The Rams are pretty good at not beating themselves. You know
they
how
might not beat you.
Right. But you know how there are if you go down to lower levels of sports, if you're playing in a league or whatever, and they're just teams that like win, they just win. They know how to win. Even iterations of Manning's of Manning's Colts and Brady's Patriots, when they weren't like beating you and high flying, those games where you just knew they were going to like wait it out and figure out a way to beat you because you'd make a mistake and they wouldn't.
I mean, Mahomes Chiefs 2 years ago when they were like, what were they, like 11-5 or whatever?
Yeah, right. And they weren't that good. Or like
Right.
last year.
Still won the Super Bowl.
They didn't win at all. They didn't win the Super Bowl last year, but they got there, and everybody kind of had a feeling about it. Like, they're really not that good. They just kind of
exactly right.
figure out a way. And this team does kind of the opposite. But many iterations of the Titans teams have done the opposite.
Kind of a weird hip issue there with Latham. Came out of the game. It didn't
seem like he did anything in particular, like when he started limping and walking off. But that's a big problem if Latham's hurt. I mean, Moore looks like the kind of guy who's going to struggle against good talent. So like let's go through the schedule and figure out how many teams are not going to have a guy who's going to really challenge him. I don't know. Is it going to be half? Probably not.
Are you being? Do you want me to actually look through it?
Jared Verse this week. TD.
Jared Verse is not going to be. Jared Verse is not.
That's not one of those teams. And then if Latham's out, Udo looked like a traditional.
He got cooked on the first play, I think. Right.
2020s Tennessee backup tackle, which is a great list to be on.
2020s. The Colts pass rush looked absolutely dominant against Miami. Now that's Miami, so I don't know.
I think that Colts Miami game, is going to turn out to be an extreme.
I think Miami is.
Situation.
I think Miami is. They're gonna. I think they could bottom out. You got your star.
I think Miami's bad, but I don't think they're that bad. And I think the Colts just caught a great day.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting as I think the coach is fired. I think they could be drafting a quarterback. Your star receiver is being charged with domestic abuse. I think Miami's in another planet right now, and I think the Colts took advantage of that. They've got some nice pieces, and I think the coach knows how to scheme, but they are that pass rush was dominant against Miami. The Texans, we know that's what they do. They've got a couple of superstar pass rushers coming off the edge. Arizona, the Raiders, you got Max Crosby. For the Raiders there, and then you get to Mike Vrabel coming to town, and that's just in the next couple of weeks.
That'll be Harold Landry. I mean, that
2.5 sacks.
If Dan Moore can't stand up to Harold Landry, got big problems.
Yikes. All right, Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Make sure you check out the In Crowd, which is like sort of the. They're not going to bother you. Sinkers is not going to bother you with a bunch of emails. They'll send you an email like once every 4 or 5 months. It's a couple of times a year, and it's only to give you really great offers and opportunities to get really cool stuff. So make sure you sign up for the In Crowd. All you do is put your phone number in when you go in to purchase something. Again, they will send you a couple of emails a year. That's it. But otherwise, you'll get great benefits. You'll know when they're dropping fancy bourbons and new products. They got some giveaways in the store. Thursday through Saturday and Sunday, they do tastings in the store for free, so you can go in and sample a bunch of stuff if you want to almost every single weekend. So go check out all the great stuff that Sinkers Beverages is doing for you. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Not today or Monday when we normally do the show, but Wednesday through Sunday. You've got 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. award-winning brisket at Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, just 10 minutes from downtown, right there off Briley Parkway. So make sure you go check that out. PK, we had a chance to, on a lighter note, we had a chance to tour the new Nissan Stadium this morning, and I threw together some stuff for all of you guys because I wanted to see all of you guys. I wanted to give you guys all an opportunity to kind of see everything that we saw. There's some comments in here from President and CEO Burke Nihill, of course, and you'll kind of get some narration as our trip through the stadium this time was far more extensive than it was the previous trip through, and it looks like we'll kind of get these every 5 to 6 months or so. It's only a couple of minutes long, but I hope you guys all enjoy this look at what the new building is, because I think when we come back, there's one very important take that I think everybody needs to understand. So here was a quick little tour of new-ish Nissan Stadium. 100 level seating, lower bowl, 200, 300, 200, 100. Mosh pit over here. That ring up top will hold the ceiling. That should be done in the next few months. And then the building should be dry with the wiring and the balloons by September of next year.
Still looking at February 2027 completion date, which gives us plenty of margin to be open for Titan Stadium. Certainly, we're hoping, say late April, early May of that year is when we'd probably start to stack other non-Titans events. Need to be ready by CMA Fest that year for sure.
Let's see, but this is your giant LED board right here, huge LED board in the northwest corner of the end zone. You got another one right here. it's going to curve around. This atrium right here is completely wide open. You'll have some stairs blocking the way, but you'll have a complete view of the city this way. Enormous atrium. There's the LED board. You got the staircase there. Over here, you're going to have markets and everything. North Concourse.
Now you can stand in the bowl, and when we say 38% closer to the action, you can feel it. I mean, it feels like a coliseum. You can go up to the highest levels of the stadium and realize that's a really good seat. Even the concourses, you can see that's just a totally different experience. They're wide. You can get a sense for where these markets are going to be and understand why it's going to be so much easier to get back to your seat with some food and beverage. So it's exciting. Long way to go. 18 months yet. We're only halfway, believe it or not, for as far along as it is, but it's really exciting to see it come to life.
All right, this is your 50 level, so club suites, some back of the house stuff. Not a lot of, this is not even 100 level, it's 50 level. This semicircle right here is a bar, so imagine bartenders with their backs to us. We're waiting for a drink on the 35-yard line, watching the game. Pretty wild. There's Nick Suss walking out onto the Titans field level.
Did a lot of research on what works and what doesn't. Some of those field suites around the sidelines, yeah, pretty fun for a guest, but then you don't have a good view of the game. But having one in the touchdown, you get kind of the back all 22 view.
There's your big jumbotron there. This is the west end zone. You see the ring going on there. We are on the field. This is going to be your field wall right here. They poured in the concrete all the way around. You can see in the concourses, total sight lines everywhere except for up here in the 400 level. It's your east side right there. You can see it's about 9 a.m. so the sun's coming in pretty hard. It'll be much higher at kickoff.
The main focus, the next milestone is the roof. And as you all saw, you can start to see the compression ring support taking place. They're taking its shape. They will start to lay out these cables for the ETFE roof structure in the spring to summer. They'll start to actually get those kind of pillow-like translucent roof clouds, and they'll pull that up probably about next year at this time, and the building will be seal tight. It's just there's so many nice touches and elements that require that the building be seal tight to really get rocking and rolling on it. So that's really the next milestone, is getting the building seal tight so that we can get the millwork and the furniture and that sort of thing starting to get in place.
Pretty awesome, guys. Super tiny, small little stadium. All right, there you go, PK. There you go. I just everything. The most important thing for me on this, I don't think fans realize how special the building is going to be when you're inside, and I don't think fans realize how. I don't want to say how bad the old building is, but that's what it is. It is going to be spectacular. Forget all the politics of it and the payment and the private and public, and forget the East Bank development and all the other drama that goes into what's happening over there. If you're talking about just in the building, it is going to be eye-opening and jarring in a good way for fans to be in this place. It is going to be unlike anything we've ever had in this city, by a long shot. And so that's number one. Other than that, what was your takeaway from walking through today?
Yeah, just excited to see it. I think it's a little bit of an illusion, when you're looking from it on top and stuff, because those lower seats are not in. So the floor/field seems a lot bigger than it will be. So, I tried to emphasize in some of the pictures I posted. There's kind of a yellow border there, which is actually the field wall, which then gives you a little perspective that it's actually, like that on the ground, not like that.
The seats are going to come much further in. Yeah. Another, like, it looks like a good 50, 100 feet from where we were standing. So they just can't put that stuff in just yet. I want to say they have 13 of those touchdown suites on the end zone there, which will be on field level. And as he was saying, Burke was saying, you get the 22 view there. They have 10 out of the 13 sold. They have 3 left. I imagine that is one of the most expensive units in the entire building. 130 total suites, which is about the same number of penalty yards they had. in the Broncos game. The question is, was it like 6 left or 10 left or so? 15 ballpark. They had a few left.
I think 3 of the 13 and maybe 6 of the 130. The one thing about those touchdown suites, and I've wondered this as I've been in other buildings that have them, I think when you're field level, people are walking there and obstructing you. I always wonder why they don't raise them, and they're raised like curb size.
Yep.
And I think if you raise them 3 curb sizes, it would somehow be better. I don't know about the functionality of that. I'm no architect.
I think that's what Burke was trying to say is like the sideline view, is going to be blocked if you're at field level. Like you can't, you know that there's going to be an entire team there in front of you. I think in the end zone, there's far fewer people, and maybe there's a way to kind of block off some space for that. But it's about being as close to the action as you want as possible. And you've done this, like when you're on the sideline, or even first row of a game. If you buy first row, it's not like baseball where if you grab a seat first row in baseball anywhere in the diamond, you're going to have a great view of everything.
Yeah.
The first 5 to 10 rows of a football stadium, doesn't matter where you are not always the best view.
No, you really want it. The best seats at a football stadium are usually the back of the first section.
Yeah. The last 15 rows or so. Yeah. I'm with you on that. Anyway, the one thing I noticed, and you could see it there in the videos if you go back and check it out, and I'll post the video separately on the YouTube page. And that is that the 400 level seats, that there is the concourse, you lose sight of the field when you leave your seat and walk out, which the northern concourse is going to be all the families, which is the one I showed you guys in the video. That's where a lot of families are going to be. You do lose sight of the game on the top, on the highest level, because they have these cement kind of walls with tunnels that are shooting out into the seats. Whereas on every other level, the 100 and 200 and 300, you've got full view, 360-degree view all the way around the entire stadium. So that's the one thing that you could see with the framing of the seats that like you're not going to be able to see when you're walking to the bathroom in the 400 level, which is the cheap seats.
One thing here, Jack Shepard says us not getting a World Cup is criminal. The World Cup's next summer. The World Cup would have been played at old Nissan Stadium.
Why we didn't get it.
I mean, I think we still would have been a great World Cup city, but it wouldn't have been in that building. So they stuck between, which is really bad timing.
We will get a Super Bowl. We will get a college football national championship. We will get a Final Four. We've already got if WrestleMania or WWE, whatever that is, if that matters to you. I'm not a fan. I don't get it. But they've already announced they're coming. You're going to have huge concerts. And I think the Super Bowl, and here's what I would say to folks. Let's call this informed speculation. The Super Bowl is going to come when you can pause construction of the East Bank. So you need to think about it. They have not gone vertical on the East Bank in any other way other than the Titan Stadium. So as long as there's not a bunch of other buildings a third of the way up or going down into infrastructure, there's a chance that a Super Bowl could actually come earlier. Because what you can't have is 5 or 6 or 7 lots around the new stadium, partially under construction, pause it all for 4 months or 3 months or whatever you need to pause it for to host a Super Bowl, and then restart it all. It's just it's logistically not possible. So I actually think a Super Bowl is coming earlier than people think, because they want to get it played when the space is clean-ish around the new stadium. And as of right now, it is very clean around the new stadium. How long does that last? We'll see. But that would be my informed speculation on when a Super Bowl is coming to town.
Yep.
So there you go. All right, Jason, by the way, Jason McDonald, good to see you over the weekend, by the way. Always a pleasure, my guy. Good to see you. And so anything else you want to add? What do you got coming up on paulkaharski.com this week?
Well, I may delve into that penalty question that we had about, what do you do when you're overmatched? And that's the only way that you can exist, making a choice in the moment. Drew Beatty with film review tomorrow, I believe, of Cam and Mike Herndon with a column on the offensive line. Well worth $750 a month just for the content that will be on the site tomorrow.
There you go. College scouting for me coming up later on in the week as well. Suss and I will be available with you guys on Friday. Again, I apologize. That's a scheduling issue for me, not for Nick or for the Titans. That one's for me. Yesterday was about the Titans. We will have a finalized schedule for all of you coming up very soon, very shortly. So stay tuned. We do appreciate all you guys for hanging out. Always a pleasure. Rate, review, subscribe. 5 stars. 5 stars only, please. If you do not give us 5 stars, you are a hater. For PK, I am Braden Gall. Shop at Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time.